All right, so today we're diving into something pretty wild,
Okay.
AI making movies.
That,
Specifically, Meta's just dropped this thing called Movie Gen, and it's got everyone talking.
yeah, it's definitely causing a stir.
You've sent over a ton of stuff
Ah,
on this
yeah, I did.
buzz on Hacker News, Meta's own blog post, even the full research paper.
Mhm.
So where do we even start with something this big?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that Movie Gen isn't just one thing. It's more like a whole suite of AI tools all working together, like having an entire film crew made of code.
That's a good point. I mean, we've seen those AI image generators everyone's been playing with,
Right.
but this seems way more advanced. We're talking actual videos here.
Absolutely. We're talking generating videos from text prompts,
Yeah.
just like those image
Yeah.
generators, but then going way beyond want to cast someone into a scene using just their photo. Movie Gen can do that.
Wow.
Need to tweak the action, swap out a background. It can do that too. Even create a soundtrack that fits perfectly. Moody Gen's got you covered.
Okay, now that you mentioned the soundtrack, that's something I wanted to ask about. It's one thing to generate visuals,
Right.
but music, that feels like a whole other level.
It really is, and it's a testament to how sophisticated this technology has become. We've come a long way from those early AI-generated images that look like a blurry mess. Movie Gen is already producing video quality that's being compared to, and in some cases even surpassing, professional-grade video generation software.
So how does it even work? What's going on under the hood that allows it to do all of that?
Well, at its core, Movie Gen's video model has a staggering 30 billion parameters. To put that into perspective, imagine the entire Library of Congress. But instead of books, it's dedicated to understanding how video works. That's the level of data we're talking about. And what makes it even more powerful is that it's trained on this massive data set of both images and videos.
So it's not just learning what things look like, it's learning how they move in the real world.
Precisely. They call it joint training.
Yeah.
And it's crucial because it allows the AI to grasp the complexities of motion and interaction in a way that simply wasn't possible before.
That makes sense. But are there things it can't do well yet? I was reading on Hacker News that someone mentioned Movie Gen struggling with something like realistic fire effects.
That's right. As advanced as it is, it's still under development. Simulating complex physical phenomena like fire, water, or even something like cloth realistically is incredibly difficult, even for AI. The researchers behind MovieGen acknowledge that processing times can be a bottleneck too, and that even larger datasets are needed to iron out the kinks and achieve true photorealism. We're talking about replicating the nuances of light, texture, and movement in perfect harmony, which is no small feat.
So it's like this incredible AI filmmaker, but it's still learning and growing.
Exactly.
One of the examples from the research that really caught my eye was a prompt describing a kangaroo in purple overalls and boots walking in Johannesburg during sunset. It just seems so specific and out there.
And that's the beauty of it. MovieGen can take these completely disparate elements and weave them together into a cohesive scene. It's that ability to blend the familiar with the unexpected that really gets you thinking about the creative possibilities.
It makes you wonder what someone with a truly creative mind could do with this technology. Imagine the storytelling potential.
Absolutely. And we're just scratching the surface here. One of the most exciting aspects is how MovieGen could personalize video.
Personalize how?
Imagine filming yourself once, and then using AI to place you in any scenario imaginable. On a mountaintop, in a historical drama, even in a cartoon, MovieGen has the potential to do that while maintaining your likeness and seamlessly adapting your movements to any new context.
Okay, now that's where things get really interesting for creators. Imagine the possibilities. But before we get too carried away, we have to talk about the potential downsides as well.
Yes, of course.
We've talked about what Movie Gen can do, but what about what it shouldn't do?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Any technology this powerful comes with a responsibility to use it ethically. There are concerns about how it could be used to create misleading or harmful content.
And what about access? Who gets to use this technology? Will it be available to everyone, or will it be controlled by a select few?
Those are all valid questions. Some people on Hacker News were speculating about whether Meta would release MovieGen's code to the public, making it open source, or keep it proprietary. It'll be interesting to see how they handle this, especially considering their track record with open source AI.
Right. They haven't always followed through on those promises in the past. So it's a bit of a waiting game to see how it all unfolds. But in the meantime, We can at least try to understand the technology itself a bit better.
Absolutely. The research paper goes into quite a bit of detail about how it all works, and while some of it is fairly technical, there are some fascinating concepts in there that I think we can unpack together.
Okay, let's unpack this then. You mentioned it's a combination of different AI techniques working together. Can you give us an example of one of those techniques?
Sure. One of the key concepts is something called temporal autoencoders. Now, don't let the name scare you.
Temporal autoencoders, what's the deal with those?
Well, think of it like this. Imagine you have a flipbook, right? Each page is a separate image. But when you flip through them quickly, you perceive motion. A temporal autoencoder works in a similar way. It compresses video information, kind of like shrinking down the size of each page in the flipbook, but in a way that preserves the relationship between those pages, or in this case, frames. That way, when it decompresses the information, it can recreate the smooth, natural motion of the original video. So it's not just looking at each frame in isolation, it's understanding the flow, the way things change over time. Exactly. And that's essential for creating video that looks and feels natural to our eyes. Another fascinating technique they use is called flow matching. This one's a bit trickier to explain. But imagine a painter starting with a blank canvas, just a sea of random colors and textures. Now imagine that painter gradually refining those random elements, stroke by stroke, guided by the image they have in their mind until the masterpiece emerges.
So it's like taking something chaotic and undefined and slowly molding it into something coherent and meaningful.
Precisely. And in the case of Movie Gen, that guiding image is the text prompt you provide. Along with all the visual knowledge it's learned from its massive data set.
That's incredible. It's like MovieGen is learning to paint with video, using our words as its inspiration. It makes you wonder what kind of control this gives creators over the filmmaking process. I mean, we've talked about generating whole scenes from scratch, but what about editing?
That's where it gets really interesting. Imagine being able to edit videos using natural language, just by typing out commands. The researchers describe how you can use MovieGen to add or remove elements, change backgrounds, even adjust the lighting and composition of a scene, all with simple text prompts. It's like having a superpowered video editing software that understands your intentions on an almost intuitive level.
So instead of needing to manually cut, crop, and mask everything, I could just tell MovieGen, make the sky bluer, or replace that car with a motorcycle, and it would just do it.
That's the idea. And the key is, it wouldn't just do it in a clunky, artificial way. It would maintain the integrity of the scene, preserving lighting, shadows, camera movement, all those subtle details that make a video look professionally made.
That could be a game changer, especially for independent filmmakers or anyone working with limited resources. Suddenly, they have access to these Hollywood-level post-production capabilities without needing a Hollywood budget.
And the time savings could be enormous. Imagine being able to achieve in minutes what used to take hours or even days of painstaking manual labor. It frees up creators to focus on the creative aspects of filmmaking, storytelling, character development, exploring new ideas, rather than getting bogged down in the technical weeds.
That's incredibly empowering. But on the flip side, we also have to consider the implications for jobs in the film industry if AI can do all this. What happens to the editors, the VFX artists, all the people whose livelihoods depend on those skills?
It's a valid concern, and it's one that comes up every time technology disrupts an industry. It's not just about jobs disappearing. It's about skills needing to evolve. I think what we'll see is a shift in roles, where human creativity and expertise will become even more valuable. The ability to work with AI, to guide it, to fine-tune its output and push it in new directions. Those are the skills that will be in high demand.
So it's less about being replaced by AI and more about learning to collaborate with it, to use it as a tool to enhance our own abilities.
Exactly. It's about embracing the possibilities that AI opens up and finding creative ways to integrate into our workflows.
Speaking of possibilities, one of the things that really struck me about MovieGen was the discussion around open source versus proprietary software. We touched on it earlier, but I think it's worth digging into a bit deeper. What are your thoughts on that whole debate?
It's a complex issue with passionate voices on both sides. On the one hand, you have those who believe that open sourcing MovieGen would be a huge win for the creative community. Imagine thousands of developers and artists tinkering with the code, building new tools, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. That kind of open collaboration could lead to an explosion of innovation in the field of AI-generated media.
It's like unleashing this powerful technology into the wild and seeing what amazing things people create with it. But there's also the risk that it could be used for less than savory purposes, right?
That's the other side of the coin. Open sourcing any powerful technology comes with inherent risks. There's the potential for misuse, for bad actors to exploit the technology for malicious purposes. And with something like Movie Gen, those risks are amplified.
Like the ability to create incredibly realistic deepfakes, which could be used to spread misinformation or harm someone's reputation.
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act. Meta has to weigh the potential benefits of open collaboration against the very real risks of misuse. And then, of course, there's the business side of things. Open sourcing MovieGen would mean giving up a certain degree of control over the technology.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to monetize it as easily. And there's always the risk of competitors using their own code to build something even better.
It's a tough call. On one hand, they want to be seen as a leader in the field of AI, and open sourcing MovieGen would certainly cement that reputation. But on the other hand, they're also a business, and they have to make decisions that make financial sense.
And they've got that Hacker News thread to think about, too. A lot of people seem skeptical of their commitment to open source, given their past actions.
It's true. They've made promises about open sourcing AI in the past that haven't always come to fruition, so the community is watching closely to see what they do with MovieGen.
It's a real head-scratcher. Knowing Meta, they're probably weighing the PR implications as much as the technological ones. But let's shift gears a bit. We've talked a lot about the big picture, but I'm curious about the practicalities. Say I'm a filmmaker, or even just someone who likes making videos for fun. How does MovieGen actually change my day-to-day creative process?
That's where things get really exciting.
Yeah, brainstorming a new scene, right? Instead of just jotting down ideas, you could use MovieGen to mock up different versions in minutes, trying out various camera angles, swapping out props, maybe even testing how different actors would look in the scene, all without having to actually film anything.
So it becomes kind of like a digital backlot where you can experiment and play around with ideas before committing to a final vision.
Exactly. It's like having a virtual film set at your fingertips.
Yeah.
It could be especially transformative for independent filmmakers who often have limited resources. They could use MovieGen to create pre-visualizations of complex scenes, which would be incredibly valuable when pitching their ideas to potential investors or collaborators.
That makes a ton of sense. It's one thing to describe your vision with words, but to be able to show someone a rough cut generated by AI, that could be a game changer. But it's not just about solo filmmaking, right? What about collaboration? Could MovieGen change the way teams work together on projects?
Absolutely. Think about it. Instead of emailing revisions back and forth or trying to articulate visual changes over a conference call, imagine being able to share your MovieGen projects with collaborators in real time. They could make edits, suggest new directions, and you'd see those changes reflected instantly.
It would make the feedback process so much more fluid and intuitive.
Exactly. And think about the possibilities for remote collaboration. Filmmakers from all over the world could work together seamlessly, as if they were in the same room, thanks to the power of AI.
It's amazing to think about. MovieGen isn't just about automating tasks that humans used to do. It's about expanding the possibilities for what we can create together.
That's a great point. It's not about replacing human creativity, it's about amplifying it. It's about giving filmmakers, whether they're seasoned professionals or just starting out, the tools they need to bring their visions to life in ways that were never possible before.
It's like we're standing on the edge of a new era in filmmaking. And it's both exciting and a little bit daunting at the same time. Who knows what the future holds? But one thing's for sure. Things are about to get very interesting.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the technical wizardry behind MovieGen to the profound implications it could have for the future of filmmaking.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
And for you listening, we hope this deep dive has given you a lot to think about as well. We're entering uncharted territory, but that's part of what makes it so exciting. Who knows what amazing stories we'll be able to tell with the help of AI.
The possibilities are truly endless.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of MovieGen.